Okay, we're rolling. I hope you're ready because we are live
I hope so.
officially.
I hope
Okay,
so.
cool. What's up, everybody? Back with another episode of Talking Ship. I have a longtime friend of mine, guest Roy Riley, on the show. He's maybe better known through his significant other, though. His wife is Mackenzie Riley, multiple-time individual games athlete and now Masters games athlete. She's competing this next weekend, right?
Yes.
Yep.
We leave tomorrow.
That's cool. That's cool. Is she ready for it?
As ready as a mom of two and one terror of a 4-year-old can be.
Well, that's the caveat, right? So balancing life with training now. So okay, so the premise of the show, the reason I contacted Roy, well, actually Roy contacted me, and we were talking about some other stuff because it's been almost exactly 5 years since we did a race together, a very long, grueling, maybe way out of our element swim run race, which we'll show we'll show the details of in a little bit. But what I want to talk about is Roy and I think neither one of us would classify ourselves as elite athletes by any means, and we both just found an interest at some point in endurance work. So whether it's triathlon, swim run races, open water swimming, and I just wanted to talk about how two average guys could learn some basics, get enough comfort with their own skills to get into an open water situation that's high stress, high pressure, and have success in the terms of finishing a race. And so I think this episode's not meant to be insensitive over what happened at the CrossFit Games recently. This episode's meant to try to help those who now may be super gun shy, who have way higher levels of fitness that Roy and I have ever had, about some tips as to how they can start approaching open water swimming without this fear of something happening or the unknown, and stuff like that. So if you wouldn't mind, Roy, can you give me a little background on how you got into your first triathlon? Like what possessed you to start that to begin with?
Sure. I was a collegiate distance runner, so I have the background of just endurance athlete. So I was a long-time runner. Well, when you're a long-time runner, eventually you start transitioning to something else. So then it looked into the triathlon. To me, was the easiest thing. I was always, not probably the best thing to say here, but I was always a decent swimmer. I wasn't on any swim teams, but I was always just a decent swimmer, in the local pool or whatever. So I figured, I was like, if I just learned how to ride a bicycle, I was like, I can run and I can swim pretty well. I'm going to do pretty good at this triathlon thing. And that's kind of where it was. My first triathlons was in a pool though, lane swimming, and then, with a little $150 Huffy bicycle, figure that thing out, and then get the run done. I was like, all right, I'm kind of hooked in this triathlon thing.
And so you eventually made your way all the way up to Ironmans from doing little triathlons.
All of this was from my first triathlon to the Ironman World Championships in Kona was a little under 3 years.
Wow. So that's crazy.
Yeah. So the top of all triathlons in 3 years from the first triathlon I've ever done.
And so did you have to qualify for that, or how did you get selected to do that?
You backtrack, talk about no elite athletes. Trust me, I'm not an elite athlete. The World Championship in Kona, the Ironman, you have to qualify to get to. However, unless you're the luckiest guy on the planet, which happened to be me, I won basically a selection to get into it. I was just like an award winner. They just put me into the World Championships when I have no Ironman
business
experience at all.
Yeah.
This is a true story. I was told through this process on August 28th, I still remember today, August 28th, 2011, would I do Kona on October 8th?
3 months later.
2.5
Not
months,
even. Yeah.
August 28th to October 8th.
What was the longest distance you had done on a triathlon or any single run, swim, or bike before taking on Kona?
I did do a few halves the year before, and maybe even that summer. So that was, a 1.2 mile swim in the in a lake. So I had experience of never swam 2 miles before. You never. definitely never rode a bicycle 112 miles before.
And you said a lake too, and swimming in the ocean, I'm sure you quickly realized is much different than swimming in a lake.
And that was, I mean, when you mentioned what I was going to do, I was like, the day I got to Kona was the first time I've ever been in an ocean. My feet never touched ocean water.
No way.
Promise. I mean,
Your whole life.
I'm from Central Illinois, so I've never been in. I've never been to ocean. Our vacations wasn't to the beach. You know, it was camping or some shit. You know, like, so the first time I ever touched water was the week of the
Ironman World Championship.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you did finish, right?
Correct. Yes.
Do you remember how long? Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, in my opinion, a very, very respectable time.
What was it? I don't remember mine.
Around 11:20 for the whole finish.
That actually is quite respectable. From what I know about that. Do you remember your swim time individually for the 2.4 mile swim?
Yeah. Maybe like an hour and 10 minutes, give or take. Something like that.
Did you do any practice swimming in the ocean when you got there before the event, or did you say, screw it, I've done enough swimming, I'm just going to go for it?
Oh, yeah. Well, that was one thing. Once I learned I was there, I was like, I have to learn how to. So I didn't know that ocean tasted salty. Like, a common sense, ocean is salt water. But, like, that was never in my, like, thought process. Right. Until I'm there and I'm tasting them, like, oh, fucking, you know, like, something that regular people are used to. Like, anyway, and I remember getting out there, and I will say, it's a little different than a lake. Yes, it was out there. Yes, it was very clear water. Like, I could truly see 30 feet down. Like, so yes, to me, it was at the early part of the swim. Once you get out there, obviously you can't see much flow, but close. I was like, I felt very confident in the first few, you know.
And I will say this: we know the water is pretty warm, and so like, just because I say that because all my swimming experience in open water comes from being in the Northeast in Maine, where the water never gets warm, no matter what. I mean, even lakes do okay; they get warmer, but not that comfortable. And then the ocean, as you and I experienced together, freezing cold even in the middle of the summertime.
Yes.
So did you do any, so you felt confident swimming, you started short in pools and the short triathlons. Did you get any swim lessons, or did you do anything to prepare special for the swim? Did you go with people who are more experienced? How did you start to develop your confidence in swimming from pools to then lakes to then, you know, the ocean and the World Championship?
Well, on that, like, I never had lessons my entire life. I just swam, but I've got so confident with just swimming in pools. Like, my routine became like work at 8 a.m., but I would go to the local pool with lap pool at 5:30 a.m.s, you know, 3 days a week, and just routinely swam. Just swim. Freestyle. So I don't know how to do anything else. Like, you know,
but that's what you went with anyway.
Yes. Yes, just routine swim. And I know if we're getting in like the open water swim talk, even because when you're doing like triathlons, open water swimming, sighting is so important. You know, pay attention to something. You know, if you're looking for a buoy, you know, so sighting, like a lot of people, you know, swim, breathe like this, and you can't see, and they keep going out and breathe this way. Like, even in a regular pool, lap pool, you can see the bottom with a lane line. To this day, I still consistently swim one this way, and then my next stroke, I look up, straight down. Just
even in a pool.
Even in a pool, to this day, just muscle memory, perhaps. You know, like, consistently look up to sight. You know, you're in a triathlon or a whatever. When I'm swimming, I'm seeing something ahead of me that I'm aiming for. Is it a pole? Is it a house? Whatever is straight, I know, breathe this way for the first stroke. Next stroke, I'm trying to see that house. Back to it this way, up to see that house. So even in a pool, same thing. I'm consistently popping in sighting. So sighting is first thing I would say people should definitely start practicing sighting for like swimming.
That's a good tip. That's something that I didn't get good at. Actually, I'm probably still not good at it. I never got that good at any of it. I call myself a competent swimmer, certainly not a high level swimmer at all. What I basically did is it's similar to you, except when I grew up around lakes in Maine. And so the summertime, I spent a lot of time in the lakes. I never was taught how to swim. I just would go up there. I knew how to doggy paddle. I eventually spent enough time in the water in the summertime as a kid. You learn how to float on your back. You learn how to float on your stomach. So having those two positions, if you're a swimmer at all, or you're getting ready for a swim and you don't know how to float on your back or even float face down for a minute to rest and stay and keep your hips up, then you're already missing the mark. Like just the basic skill of floating, especially on your back, so you can essentially rest, is like so key. And I just learned that without realizing it as a kid. And you probably did the same, spending as much time swimming as you did. And so when I was a kid, probably from the age of, I'll say 11 or 12 on, we had this camp we went to every year. And probably, I would guess now, it seemed like forever when I was a kid, but it's probably 800 meters from the shoreline to this very, very small rocky island in the middle of this lake. And I, one year, was like, tell my dad, hey, I want to try to swim to that island. I didn't know how to swim, didn't know how to freestyle. He said, great, I'll follow you with the boat or the raft or whatever, and you can swim out there. Cool. So I just doggy paddle my way out, head above, head under, head above. And I did that for years and years. And just felt so comfortable in the water as a kid that I didn't have that fear that other people have of not spending time in there. And so that was the only base I had when it came time that I was going to start trying to do some endurance sports. And I was a very comfortable runner. And then one day somebody convinces me to sign up for a half Ironman. I had never done a competitive bike. I'd done plenty of runs and I'd never swam. And I've been in the ocean because I'm from Maine on the coast, but I'd never swam beyond, just over your head in the waves, playing in the waves. And so I did all this training in the summertime, practicing in lakes, letting friends follow me around on rafts and paddle boards and just like trying to get as much volume as I could. And then I went and I took a class before I did this, this race. And it's called, have you heard of total immersion swimming?
Yes, absolutely.
So I found that through a friend of a friend who mentioned it, and I did some research online. It turns out actually it was recommended by CrossFit way back in the day, and I didn't know it at the time. I'm going to try to pull up a video so people can get a look. I actually did a whole video on this probably 6 months ago, but total immersion swimming, for those who don't know, this is what I highly, highly, highly recommend CrossFitters, the style that they use when it comes to freestyle swimming. You'll see why in a minute. So Terry Laughlin actually wrote some early CrossFit Journal articles for Greg. I'm talking like early 2000s. I didn't realize that until, I found this and then did some digging on it. But you notice the biggest thing here, he's using his upper body, a lot of turning to breathe, and he's not kicking violently with the feet. The feet essentially just steer the boat. So the biggest thing with CrossFit, and I'm just going to let this play while we talk, is that, most times swims are mixed with other elements, as we've seen time and time and time again, or you're getting out of the water and you're doing other elements like in a triathlon. If you use your legs to propel yourself aggressively, you're using way more muscle. It's less efficient and you're burning way more oxygen. Your heart rate's higher for longer. You're breathing more often with less strokes. And frankly, you just burn yourself out in the water. So this style of swimming really focuses people on being just upper body pullers and being super long and smooth in the water. Look how little their legs kick.
It's fluid.
Yeah, it's just steering. We'll let it play for a minute while we welcome some people in. What's up, Gus? Don, nice to see you. Kenneth, thanks for coming in. What else we got? We got a whole bunch of people in there now. Hey, Molo, please. I competed against Roy at RX Madness. I'm pretty sure he threw up next to me, next to my Land Rover. Did you puke in a parking lot next to a Land Rover, Roy?
Well, if you know me in the world of fitness, I'm very good at just sending it. If I have to send it, I'm going to send it. And I'm pretty sure I sent it. And that was the aftermath.
Okay, fair enough. So anyway, you guys get the point on total immersion swimming. If you haven't dug into this and you're any sort of endurance athlete or a CrossFitter who may be facing a swim event in a pool, open water, doesn't matter, I would highly recommend looking into this. And like I said, I took a weekend-long swim course. It was super fun. You definitely don't master it in a weekend. But anyway, so back to my story. That was all the experience I had. Playing in the water as a kid, practicing in the lakes for like a few months leading into this race, and then a one weekend swim course. And then I get to the ocean the day before my half Ironman. And as you can attest, in Maine, entering the water or even dealing with the front half of the water, it's super choppy, it's windy, it's freezing cold, it's just aggressive and uncomfortable versus you enter a lake, it's like, a glass top, you just get in and swim across it. So for the first time ever, I'm going in to swim to test out these newfound skills. I run in, dive in, and I start swimming. And within about 2 minutes in, I'm like panicking. This is not what I was used to. This is not like the lake. This is not, the water is going in my mouth as I turn my head. The waves are crashing over the top of my head. And I'm just looking out in front of me. And as far as I can see out, they'd set up the Ironman course, days before, is just buoys. You got to go out, left, and then all the way back to shore for your course. And it's as far as I can see, these giant red buoys I have to swim out. And I'm just like, I turn around and go back to shore and I'm like, I guess I have to withdraw. Like, there's no way I can do this swim. And a buddy I was with had the same experience. We both came out. We're like, we thought we were prepared. We weren't. This is way overwhelming. We went back in like 20 minutes later, ended up just kind of swimming around, settling ourselves down. And then the next day, we just like accepted what was going to happen, trusted our abilities, and went out there. And we both did it. I ended up swimming the mile in 1.2 miles in like 40 minutes, which isn't crazy, but considering you're swimming in the ocean in those circumstances, not the worst thing ever either. And I just kind of attest that to just being consistent, right? Consistent in the water and having being comfortable and not letting myself totally panic to the point where I'm in a bad situation. So I kind of got my emotion out of the whole situation by dunking myself in the day before, like having that adrenaline dump and going, oh, okay, it's really not that bad. And now I can go do it. So just having those little experiences, I think just allowed me to just stay in my head because I didn't really know what I was getting myself into.
I would say with us doing it there and Maine, the water in way up in Casco Bay was by far the coldest water I've ever done in my life. For sure. I've never been in Maine but 4 times. But I go up there and I remember my lungs from the cold air, like sucking in, like you're just not having breath.
Yes.
And that's what I was going to say. And that gives me that brought in this like panic mode, if
yes,
you're panicking, you don't have breath. You're like, so I just remember, and I'll throw in this as the second tip I can give is, and you said floating, but mine would be if you can just tread water. Just treading water in place to catch breath. I mean, that is, if you just practice, even in a pool, if you're scared of it, practice treading water for 30, 40 seconds. Trying to just stay in place if you have to. Like, what is it? I mean, 6 feet of water is the same as 40 feet of water. Yes, I mean, It's way different, but you're still in water.
Yeah, right.
Practice 6 feet. If you can do it 6 feet, you can do it in 40. So if like it's same in the ocean, if you can swim in a pool, you can swim in the ocean. If you can just survive waves.
You just reminded me of something too. You're right. I had that both times. I had my longer races in the ocean. I had that same feeling. You get in that feeling of shock and the air escaping like your lungs immediately, almost feeling compressed by the cold a little bit. The other thing that happened, I don't know if it happened to you in our race, it definitely happened to me big time in the Ironman, was my hands and feet went numb for the first, within the first 10 minutes, the circulation went out of my extremities and into my body to keep it warm. Right. So I'm literally just kind of not flailing. I'm swimming okay, but any usage, I'm not feeling my hands even touch the water. They're completely numb. I know I just have to keep doing the pattern that I've been working on to move forward. And I think that's important too, because I could have panicked and I could have, the starts of these races are butt crack of dawn, 5, 6, 7 a.m. Like the sun's not even up. It's cold out even in the summertime before the sun comes up and the water's freezing. And so you're gonna feel those circumstances. So anyway, that's my little background on my first swim, just at a half Ironman, and you did plenty of triathlons and Ironmans. And then I think it was your idea. I think you sent this to me. You had the great idea to contact me and ask me, hey, would you be willing to do this swim run race with me? It's called, I don't know how to say it, Otillo or something like that. It's a European race. I'm going to pull it up for people who haven't seen what this is. It is insane. And me being young and dumb, I agreed. Let's see if you can see some of this. Does it play? Let's see if it'll load. It'll be choppy, but you can kind of get the idea. Oh, come on. You can do it. So anyway, the whole premise of the race is there are different races all over the world, frankly, but the one that Roy and I did was up off the coast of Maine. I think that's a shot of right there. Casco Bay. Casco Bay is essentially a super rocky, not beachy coast at all, with just thousands of mini islands all off of the coast within, a distance of 400 meters to a mile off the coast, just spanning the entire length of the coast of Maine, basically. And so the course is, let's see if I can pull up the course. The course is long. Do you remember the exact distances? I remember about what they were.
About total run 14 miles, and we swam 4 to 6 miles. Like it was.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Like
so yes. So we did the long course. There was two options. We could have had a fun day and done the short course, which most people did. And we decided to do, again, being stupid, did the long course, which, I think it was, every year they change the course, but I think it was something like, it was maybe even 15 miles of running up and down these islands. And then, it was supposed to be 4 to 5 miles of swimming. But if you don't stay on course, which we'll tell you in a minute, we didn't exactly stay on course the whole time. It ends up being a whole heck of a lot more swimming. And I'm sure both of us have some moments. I have some very clear moments
absolutely.
that are stuck in my head from that race that were quite scary. So let's see if we can find, I think there's a map here somewhere. Where is it? Oh, come on. There's got to be a map.
It's definitely on the old Google search for sure.
I saw a map the other day. Maybe I clicked this. Let's see. Yeah, race details. All right, let's look. There it is. Okay, load the map. Is that showing? Okay, so you can kind of see each of those are islands off the coast. This is Portland on the left, and then those are just big islands. So I remember, let's see, we probably met about 5 a.m. on the pier. And Roy and I meet up at the pier, and we take this ferry out to the starting point, some island, probably a 30-minute, 40-minute ferry ride we take out there. I remember looking around at these other athletes, already drinking their goo pouches, dude, putting on all these
full professionals.
Dude, they had so much gear. They had hand paddles, they had everything you could imagine. And Roy and I are looking at each other like, we're fucked. That's it. I don't know. I don't even know what we're doing at this point. We're totally dead in the water. We're just so screwed right now. And so we get to the starting point, 3, 2, 1, go. We take off. And I didn't even mention.
We should say this. Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Tell them.
I should say that the rules of this race is we are tethered together with a 10-foot rope. So we're attached as a team that can't get more than 10 feet away from each other.
Yeah. Yes, tethered. And that's it. So on the run, climbing out of the water, swimming at any point, you have to establish a pattern with your partner that keeps you in line. So I think we ran next to each other for the most part. And then we figured out, because Roy had talked about how much spotting he had practiced, we decided Roy was going to be the lead swimmer because he had way more spotting experience than I did. And I would be the tail behind him. So basically his tether goes between his through his waist, between his legs, and then straight back. It goes down in front of my face and then attaches to my waist. So we have this 10-foot cord keeping us in a perfect straight line as we swim in and out of all these islands on the map. Even getting in and out was a complete nightmare half the time.
Oh, we should say it was basically, out of Mac and see, we run over an island, swim to another island, run over an island, swim to another island.
Right. In and out. So we're wearing sneakers, by the way, because these islands are full of wildlife and barnacles and on the rocks. You can't go barefoot. It's impossible. Your feet would be shredded to nothing. So you have to wear sneakers. So we're swimming in sneakers. We're wearing these lightweight, wetsuit sort of thing, half wetsuits. Yeah, half wetsuits. We had to wear a swim cap. I get water in my ears easy, so I had these rubber ear things I would take in, put out, take in, over and over again. Each entry and exit of the water, I had to put my earplugs in. It was crazy. What moments during the swim stick out to you? Do you have any particular? Because I know there were several that we looked at each other in the water.
So, a few of the biggest memories of that race, which is, that race is a top 3 competitive moment in my life. Let's just say that, for just finishing,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Top 3.
By the way, we were the last pair to finish that didn't get cut. We came in last place of the finishing teams, and then everyone who finished behind us got cut and pulled off the course. Continue.
Okay. So I'll say when you're standing at the edge of a rocky cliff, looking at the next bottle or next body of water, and you see another island you have to swim to, you don't know how far that is. Like you really don't know. It's a guess. It's a sighting thing. It could be 400 meters. It could be, a mile. I don't know how far it is.
Literally.
So that is where like fear crept in. You didn't know how far we were actually going. So that was one of the memories I have is not knowing how far we were actually going to swim for that round. But then the biggest of all was, there's a stretch in here, if you can see on this map. It was easily a mile point to point, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, the longest swim I think was just right around a mile. Yeah, we had like 8 or 9 entry, and we had like 8 or 9 swims across the whole thing, and one of them was like a mile. Yeah,
and we had to mentally prepare to get into this bad boy, and I remember we went out there and I want you to tell your thoughts of it, and then maybe I'll piggyback on this one.
I'll give you my memory of the moment that stuck out in the water most. It may not be the same one you're talking about, but I have one that will haunt my dreams forever. I don't even think it was the longest one. We got in. Well, here, let's touch on this at the same time. So Chris is interested to hear about the safety protocols. There was Coast Guard everywhere. There were boats everywhere. There were paddle boards. There was a lot of people. There were boats everywhere. And actually, like everywhere. A few moments, I'm sure Roy did it too, looked up to see where the nearest boat was in some moments where things were getting challenging. But anyway, so we go down this long run, and we're about to enter the water. And I can see across, it actually wasn't a long swim, but throughout the day, remember, this is the ocean. The tides are changing on us. So the water is getting ripped between these islands at almost like at the speed of a river. It looked like you can see the water flowing as the tide's changing. And so now not only are you spotting to swim across from the one I can remember, it's probably only 300 or 400 meters.
I remember this.
But we enter, and the guy, there's a person at each entry point saying, hey, you should probably try to aim over here because the water's been picking up. We can see this. So there's like a little helper at each entry point trying to help you out. And so we get in and we're like, okay, we got to aim at that tree because it's going to pull us, this far to the side. We start swimming and swimming and swimming, and we're not even going to, we're getting pulled even further away. Swimming, we're fighting. We're basically changing almost a 90-degree turn just to try to stay in between the channel to swim back to this island. And I remember I'm looking down. It wasn't that deep, so I could almost see the bottom from where we were. And I could see that I was swimming as hard as I could, 5 hours, 6 hours into this race, and I was losing ground to the water. And I had moments where I just was like, this is where I have to call it. This is where I'm going to flag down the Coast Guard. This is where, but you were fighting the whole time. So having you fight was like, okay, I'll stay with Roy. I'll just stay with Roy. And I know there were moments you'd pop your head up and look back. Where am I going? And I'm just like, dude, just keep swimming. You would go back down. And then you would just keep we went back and forth, I think, during that one channel. And we probably took 3 times as long as you should have taken to swim 300 meters. And we got out 200 meters to the wrong side of the island and had to walk the whole coast of that island back to the exit point and then get back on the trail and finish because the water pulled us so far off. I thought we were going out to sea. I didn't even know and there was nothing I could do. Those moments will never leave my head because I'd never been in a situation like that with anything in my life that I was so out of control.
That exact swim I do remember. And you're right. It was near the tail end of that. So all of the good swimmers were probably already past the main tide changing, and we're hung out to dry at the end. And you're right, we were swimming 6 full strokes may have given us 2 feet of swimming.
It was. So what do you remember about the long one? Because I know I didn't answer your question. So
the long swim, I remember going out there, and this is probably midday, let's say noon, I don't know, give or take. And this is a 1.5 mile swim. It became a mile. It was a mile swim, whatever. But we're out there. And I remember being out there for so long. legitimately, we were out there for an hour, at least
Probably.
an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm swimming. We're getting pushed with the waves so far over that we have to backtrack to keep getting back on course. And I remember we're swimming, and the same thing. We're not gaining any ground. Luckily, there are boats there that we could pay attention where we're supposed to go. But I remember being out there on these, some up and down waves because it's ocean. And I remember thinking, being ahead of you from 6 feet, I was like, if Seth wants to quit right now, I was like, if Seth wants to quit, I'm done. I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit. But I still kept taking a stroke. Still kept taking a stroke. Just one stroke at a time. Just trying to be confident. I remember just trying to be confident. I was like, I'm just gonna do one more stroke. I was like, if I'm in the middle of the water, there's really nothing we can do. There's no quitting once we were out there. Like,
no, I mean, in the back of my head, I knew I think they gave us so to go back on the safety protocols, I think they gave us a signal or something we had to do if they want us to pull. You take the cap off.
Yes.
The caps were super bright. You take your cap
yes.
off and you swing
our
it.
jerseys were mandatory bright as well.
Yeah, the swimwear was super bright. Yeah, so I think the sign was
we had to have a whistle.
We had a whistle. Yep. And and I want to show this too. I'm going to take this down. So people aren't super familiar with swim buoys. It's becoming a popular topic, but I don't think they really know what they are. So I'll show kind of this swim buoy that we got to use. So because Roy was the lead spotter, he had to carry a bright backpack that's airtight and it doubles as a buoy. So we had some supplies in there. I can't remember what we actually carried. We had like a compass. We had like a map we had to keep dry. We had a bunch of stuff just to make sure it was like the minimum requirement to hold. But here's what a swim buoy is for those who have never seen it. So basically, it's just a bright bag. And that's essentially a little backpack. It fills with air and you seal it up. And it works really well as a flotation device. You strap it to your hip. So it was attached to the same belt that he had to wear that attached to me. And it just floated on his back behind him. So if either one of us got into any sort of real trouble, the other one could have taken the swim buoy and used it to prop the other one up and keep him afloat while, someone came to rescue us, whatever. But yeah, they're backpacks you fill with air and they just attach to you and they're super.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's
clearly thought that ahead because that was a brilliant idea of them to have that.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I'm going to bring up the map again just so people have some context. But yeah, so that was huge. Not that we needed to use it, just not that I'm bragging, but like we didn't need it. But it was nice to know we had it. I would say that an extra confidence thing if we had to stop. And back to your point of like, if I wanted to quit, you would have quit. I had probably 6 moments where I felt that way, where I remember there were other times we were being pulled in the wrong direction. And I remember a couple times we were like yelling to each other, not at each other, but yelling because we couldn't figure out the tide. Someone would tell us to swim one way. We thought we had to swim another. Someone would tell us to swim another. We couldn't figure out where to aim. And every time we both looked up, we were off course again, seemingly making no progress. And a few times I could tell we were both so frustrated. We couldn't figure out where to swim. There was moments where I was like, I'll call it now if you want to. Like, I've had enough. I'm so destroyed at this point. But luckily it never came to that.
Can I ask you if this were to be done again, and this is for viewers, I guess, how would you prepare better for this? Or how could we? I'm just saying because I was dead to rights as much as you were.
Yeah, I would definitely focus more on my technique because I would do more than a 1-day class. I think even if it's just with a local swim coach, I would have somebody try to really iron out my positions in the water. You don't have to be fast. You have to be consistent and know your positions. And when you have, I think if you had that, I think that just elevates your confidence. And swimming goes bad when it's it's like a downward spiral because when you're inefficient, you're using too much air. When you're using too much air, your heart beats faster. When your heart beats faster, you feel panicked. When you're panicked, you're again being more inefficient. So it continues to spiral in a negative way for you when things aren't going right in the water. And it doesn't mean you can't again float on your back. So number one, I would practice technique more. I would obviously get some more exposure in the ocean to the exact place I was racing. Yeah. And then and the other thing is I would practice with a different style too. So something that I've played with a little bit in pools in the last couple of years is the side stroke. There's nothing wrong with learning how to mix it up and do a very basic like combat stroke or side stroke. It helps keep your head above the water for a longer period of time if you just need that moment. Because when Roy and I are swimming freestyle, our head is in the water 80% of the time we're in the water. It's face down, head in the water. You're turning out the bare minimum you need to turn to get that little breath of air, and then your head is face down again. So we're spending hours and hours with our head down in the water. And sometimes you just want a little reprieve just to be able to pop up, just gather yourself. Where am I? What am I doing? And I think that just would be a good tool to have as well.
I will say, and I still struggle with this to this day, is I am way more confident breathing on one side than the other. But if you are in a ocean, let's say ocean more than a lake, because it's probably not waves. If you look this way, you might just be staring at sun and waves breathing in the side you can do. So that's where I need to this day practice. If waves coming in this way, I got to be able to breathe the other way, just so I don't have water in my face when I need a mandatory breath.
Totally. Yep. I'm the same way as you. I breathe out of my left side every time. So, and I never fixed that issue, and I haven't had to, but those are all little details that I think would make a big difference when you're in any sort of open water swim again. And it's just, yeah, again, I don't think people need to sign up for this. Like, no. Again, the reason Roy and I started talking was because, after the incident at the games, he had sent me the map of our swim and was like, dude, this was like exactly 5 years ago. Can you believe we did this? And I was like, because it's the first thing I thought of when I heard the news at the games. I'm like, I was so not prepared. I was overly confident, underprepared, yet it worked out well. But like, what kind of stuff could I have done to be more prepared? What did I do that actually had me have a minimal amount of success and get through it? And like, and the bottom line is swimming's not going away. If we had a tragedy at the games where someone got hit on a road bike, that would be equally as horrible, but you couldn't tell somebody, hey, okay, we're done cycling. Like no one should be on road bikes anymore. They're too dangerous. Swimming's no different. And so I think the sooner people start to figure out what things they can do to improve their confidence in the water, their skills in the water, all that, I just think that we can start, learning from it and all that.
You just gotta, you got to get time in the water. As a great person once told my wife, who was afraid of not being good at muscle ups, I was like, you need to do more fucking muscle ups. I don't know if you remember if you said that, but
I might have said that at a camp or two.
Yeah, to do more muscle ups, to get better at swimming. You may be afraid, but you have to swim more.
Yeah. And you can use tools like we showed you the swim buoy. You absolutely use a swim buoy. Do you feel like that slowed you down much when we were doing distance? I know it's dragging.
I guess I didn't even think about it.
Right.
And so it was just floats behind me. It was just, now I think, I'll be honest, I haven't even thought of that really since that day, but I was like, that was genius.
Yeah.
Now thinking back, I think it could be used.
And when you have a swim buoy, the way that it can be used is obviously it's attached to your hip. So if you're not horizontal to the water, right, and your hip sinks, what happens to the buoy is it gets pulled closer to you because it's getting pulled as the line goes down, the buoy comes to you. You can just hold on to the buoy and float as long as you want. So it's really a great safety device you don't have to wear or carry. It just comes with you, and then it comes to you if you're unable to continue on. So it's a no-brainer. And I heard that they're going to use them, I think, in the upcoming NorCal Classic, which it's a great idea.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, this is awesome. Anything you want to add to this? This was kind of, honestly, I had a lot of PTSD thinking about these past races and situations coming up again and talking through them and everything that's happened at the games. Like, this has just been on my mind so much. So it's cool to get to talk through it with you, because I know you've been feeling the same way.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Extra things, like I will say, never, I don't think in my life have I ever gone out on a lake and swam by myself. Like, so I've always had a friend, somebody on a paddleboard, a fucking jet ski,
Yeah.
I always had somebody with me, always on that. So, I would definitely suggest, if you're doing something on a lake, have someone there.
What's funny is my fear was
your cap,
never,
like whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, the cap is good too. The cap is there. People hate wearing caps, but they're so visible as your head pops up out of the water. And what's funny is not funny, but it's a true thing. When I was saying I spent so much time in the lake in the summer as a kid swimming, I was never afraid of not being able to finish my swim. I was a kid. I could go for hours, right? But I was afraid of a boat flying over me and hitting me at the top, like not being able to see me in the water. That's part of it too. There are other things that happen other than the inability to swim. There's like, lake traffic, ocean traffic, all kinds of stuff. All right, we got some questions here. What is the reason people cannot call for help when struggling? Is there to prepare for it? Am I reading that wrong? What is a reason people cannot call for help when struggling?
Can I ask you this? Maybe this is what she's asking, and I don't know the answer. But in CrossFit, in this event, I don't know the answer. If he would have touched a boat or a paddleboard, would that have been a DQ? I'm just asking. I don't know, but would that have been a penalty?
I don't know. I heard one place. I wasn't there for any of the briefings. Obviously, I wasn't there this year, but I did hear you could get assistance and then continue from that point, but they couldn't help you forward, sort of thing. But I don't know that that's true. I heard that in one place, and there's been a lot of shit thrown around. So I don't know.
And I don't know in our event if it was that way. I don't remember, and I don't even remember if it's the same in Ironmans. I have no idea.
I think if you were racing competitively in an Ironman and you got assistance, I do think your time is disqualified for especially the World Championship. I think in our race, the Otillo race, I think they probably would have capped us if we requested Coast Guard assistance. I think that was the thing. So if you take they're not going to help you unless you take your swim cap off, and when you take your swim cap off, you're out.
Sure.
So I think that's how they did it in Otillo, to make sure that people, because they take this racing very seriously, like Ironman do. So not that we were, but like other racers do. So that was the signal, and I thought that was a great signal. Swim cap off, and you're done. They'll pull you out.
Blow the whistle and for help for sure.
Yep, they'll pull you right out.
One more thing, and I just thought of this.
Go for it.
And it might be. I mean, I guess CrossFit related. Most triathlons or whatever, it's like mass starts where everybody's together. I mean CrossFit games, how many people start at the same time. There's a lot of, I even to this day get a little panic when we're all starting at the exact same time. And, there are 40 people swimming over the top of each other. And I'd say if you have that fear, just wait.
Get in the back of the line.
Bit till somebody gets in front of you,
Yep.
Something along those lines. Because I know to this day, I even still have a little fear of somebody slapping me in the face when I'm swimming, and then you're afraid you're getting pulled under.
That's a great point. I hadn't even thought of that today, but you're right. So like when I don't know how they started you guys in Kona, but when I did my half Ironman, they did a two at a time rolling start. So they sent people out. They had a super long line on the beach, and the best racers got priority in the front, and then everyone else could just fill in wherever they wanted. And they did every 10-second rolling start, and they started you a good 100 meters, not even 150 meters from the ocean. And when you went through the starting line, your time chip started, and you sprinted to the water. But there was enough wide berth that even if someone's faster than you behind you, they could come up next to you, and you could separate yourself out going out towards the ocean. So that wasn't, I was running into people a little bit once in a while, but it wasn't a mass start. But our swim run was a mass start, but we had a run before the first swim.
The first one.
But there was still how many people jumping off that dock? Because it was the first one was a dock.
First one's a dock, like a 10-foot dock or 15-foot dock.
It might be the picture of the thumbnail of this, because I took the picture from our race. So the thumbnail on YouTube, I think, is us getting in for our first swim and having the moment where we're both like, oh fuck, can't believe we're doing this.
No, the Ironman Kona is a mass start with 2,000 people at the same time. So, if you look up YouTube, just Kona swim start, it is wild.
Yeah, I'm not that interested in doing that. I just don't need it. Yeah, imagine getting kicked with a shin right to the side of the head or something when you're swimming. Wow, that's dangerous. Yep. That's crazy. Okay, cool. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up here then. I think that was a very, very good show. Yeah, so thanks. So guys, again, if you haven't, you can subscribe like, do all that good stuff for the video. But yeah, the purpose of this chat was just to, again, it was a little bit selfish for Roy and I to relive some old memories of our glory days of endurance sports, but also, the two of us are just really competent average athletes, nothing elite about us. And just with some consistency and some practice, we both got over any sort of like bits of fear of graduating from a pool to a lake to ocean open water swimming. And we've done some crazy distances. We've, we're here to tell the story. So like it can be done. So if you're shaken up at all about getting back in the water after everything that happened, just take a big step back, look at the things you can work on, go back to the basics, really gain your confidence again, and then get back in the water sooner than later. The longer you put it off, the harder it's going to be. And it is an important skill and a really, really valuable part of fitness to be decent in the water. So hopefully that helps you guys out a little bit. Any last words?
No, I appreciate you asking me.
Cool. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. It was a great conversation. Well, safe travels to you and Kenzie. Good luck to her at the games. I'm sure you guys will do fantastic. And I will be back on Wednesday with Bill Leahy talking about how to attack weaknesses between programming and training. So I'll post that up, schedule that out, and I will see you guys then. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Take care.